Hyrule is, without a doubt, the heart of the Legend of Zelda series, the most iconic and important kingdom in the entire franchise. However, over the years, we've been given glimpses of other realms that exist beyond its borders. A recent example appears in Tears of the Kingdom, when Yona, Sidon's wife, mentions she's from a distant Sora region, hinting that there's much more to this world than what we've seen in Hyrule. But this isn't new. In other games, we have the chance to visit entirely different kingdoms, each with its own identity and secrets. But before diving into these places, it's important to make a key distinction between kingdoms and parallel worlds in Zelda universe. Kingdoms are territories that exist beyond Hyrule borders, independent nations that share the same physical world. In theory, they could be reached by traveling great distances or crossing seas. Parallel worlds, by contrast, are entirely separate realities, detached from Hyrule and usually accessible only through portals, magic, or special connections. Let's start with the first games in the franchise, Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. Have you ever wondered why we don't see the Royal Castle or iconic cities like Kakariko in the first game? According to the Hyrule Encyclopedia, all the events in Zelda 1 take place in just one small region in the kingdom, a very limited portion of its full territory. But the real surprise comes in the second game. In Zelda 2, we travel far beyond the area and explore two new continents, Western Hyrule and Eastern Hyrule. Here's a map comparing the region from the first game to the much larger territory in the second. Now, let's explore one of the most unique kingdoms in the series, Hytopia. This is the land we visit in Triforce Heroes, a kingdom located north of Hyrule and centered around one concept, fashion. While the differences in language and tradition between Hyrule and Hytopia are minimal, fashion is the core of this kingdom's culture and lifestyle. Hytopia's fashion is famous around the world for its bold and creative designs, attracting travelers and fashion lovers from faraway places, all eager to see the latest trends. Although Hytopia isn't directly mentioned in Tears of the Kingdom, it might be referenced indirectly. Suen says she has traveled to various lands seeking inspiration. And what better inspiration than the Kingdom of Fashion itself? Other kingdoms we explore include Holodrum and Labrina, the settings of Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. According to Hyrule Encyclopedia, both are considered parallel worlds. However, I personally interpret them as kingdoms in the same world as Hyrule, but we will get into that later. In these adventures, Link is transported to new lands by the Triforce to face new challenges. Holodrum is governed by the spirits of the Four Seasons, who reside in the Temple of Seasons. The balance of these forces depends on Din, the oracle who ensures harmony. This land is relatively underpopulated and lacks central governance. Most people live in Autumn Village, protected by Mako Tree and led by Major rule. Other settlements include Soken City and a small Goron community in Goron Mountain. Labrina, on the other hand, is deeply connected to the flow of time. The guardian of this flow is Nairu, the Oracle of Ages. Labrina is also inhabited by various races, such as the Sora of the Seas and the Tokai, who live along the shores of Crescent Island. And the reason I believe these are kingdoms rather than separate worlds is simple. At the end of the games, Link sails back home, implying these lands are simple distant regions within the same world as Hyrule. After the events of the Wind Waker, where the original kingdom of Hyrule was completely flooded, Tetra and her crew set out to explore new lands. Eventually, they discovered a new continent, where they founded a kingdom, with Tetra as its ruler and founder. This new Hyrule has its own identity reflected in a new emblem. Symbols of the King of Red Lions, pirate swords, and the new symbol of the goddess. Notably absent is the Triforce, which was lost in the sea, marking a clear distinction from the old king. 100 years later, this land became the seating of spirit tracks. Now, let's talk about parallel worlds. One of the most mysterious locations in the franchise is Termina, where Majora's Mask takes place. Some fans believe it's a kingdom near Hyrule, but it's actually a parallel world. The game manual even says so. According to the Hyrule Encyclopedia, Termina was born from a school kid inner sorrow and the dark magic of Majora's Mask, reshaping a world into what we know as Termina. This realm developed its own culture influenced by the ancient Majora tribe and was populated by beings created from school kids' memories and imagination. The four giants central to Termina's legends were once school kids' friends, later recreated by the power of the mask. Termina's existence was deeply tied to Majora's Mask, and after Link defeats it, the world vanishes shortly after he leaves. In Twilight Princess, we are introduced to the Twilight Realm, a shadowy domain born from a conflict over the Triforce. According to the legend, a group of intruders try to seize the Sacred Realm and the Triforce. In response, the goddesses, through the four light spirits, use the Mirror of Twilight to vanish them to this new dimension. They also sealed their most dangerous magic into the fused shadows, ensuring the threat would never return. Trapped in the Twilight Realm, these usurpers eventually evolved into a new race, the Twilight. Though they lost much of their original power, they built an organized society led by the most magical gifted among them. The only physical link between the Twilight Realm and Hyrule is the Mirror of Twilight, an ancient relic that acts as a portal. By the end of the game, Midna, the Twilight Princess, destroys the mirror, severing all ties between the two worlds. In A Link Between Worlds, we visited Lorule, a parallel world that mirrors Hyrule in geography and population. In this city, each inhabitant has a counterpart with opposite traits. For example, Revio, Link's counterpart, is cowardly and talkative, while Link is brave and quiet. Lorule was once as beautiful as Hyrule, with its own Triforce, but greed and conflict led the royal family to destroy it, hoping to end the chaos. And that decision doomed the kingdom. Without the Triforce protection, the land began to collapse. In despair, some inhabitants even began wearing monster masks in hopes of becoming them and escaping their suffering. Lastly, not far from Hyrule's borders lies a celestial being known as the Windfish, a majestic creature who dreams an entire world, Koholint Island. It's a lush tropical land full of life, and their inhabitants are unaware of anything beyond their shores. According to a local legend, everything began with a giant egg atop Mount Tamarach. To wrap things up, most of the information here comes from Hyrule Encyclopedia, but it's worth noting that these books are filled with errors and often contradict newer games. For example, in the case of Koholint Island, the encyclopedia claims that Nightmares wanted to conquer the dream world, but in reality, they simply wanted to survive, since awakening the Windfish would mean their end. Another case is Holodrum and Labrina. The book classifies them as parallel worlds, though in-game evidence points to them being distant kingdoms within the same world. The same happens to Termina. The encyclopedia states that all its inhabitants were born from school kids' memories, but that doesn't explain the presence of characters he never met. This is likely because the Zelda team wasn't heavily involved in the books, and the writers took creative liberties to fill in gaps. So, what do you think of the video? Would you like to see a future Zelda game where you travel across multiple kingdoms? Let me know in the comments. And I know that my English is not the best, but I will try to get better. Thanks for the support.